Welcome back. Just Stop Oil have threatened a summer of chaos after what they're calling their biggest protest yet. Around 200 activists hit 14 different locations across London, leaving motorists furious, with some even trying to drag protesters off the roads. 21 people have been arrested. Joining me now from Just Stop Oil is James Harvey. Hi, James. Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's a comfy seat I've been on all day.
Oh, I'm glad you're comfortable.
Yeah.
That's nice to know. So which of the protests were you part of today?
Well, we started off in Parliament Square,
Yeah.
And then we moved around the City of London after that. And there were several different groups out on the roads today, and all in civil resistance against, frankly, what we see as a criminal government. I mean, look at what's happening in the world at the moment.
Wait. Let me just ask you. So what you were doing was walking very, very slowly in the middle of the road, were you?
Yeah, there were slow marches going on, and also what we call mini marches with just a few people with placards. So
yes.
A bit of both, you know.
I think I've encountered both in the last few days. I live in London.
Yeah.
And one seemed like very, very slow. Actually, quite elderly people with placards walking unbelievably slowly right down the base of the Hammersmith flyover, which is one of the biggest arterial roads going into London.
Absolutely.
And I've got to say, I mean, this is just speaking personally, but I was on the back of a motorbike, a limo bike, and as we came down, there was this big pile up, and everyone was saying, oh my God, what's happening? What could it be? And then we saw these very few, very old, placard-waving people walking very, very slow. And I mean, there is this moment where your heart sinks to your boots, and you just think, oh no.
Yeah,
how long is it going to take? God, where have I got to be? Oh my goodness, I was meant to be doing this and doing this and doing this. And I'm only speaking from personal experience because I got personally stuck in one of them. And I just wonder what you really think the point of it all is. I mean, you know, inconvenience me, all right, but what about all the other people piling up on the Hammersmith flyover? What's the point?
Yeah, it is inconveniencing people, as we say. But we have to do these actions in order to raise the profile of these issues, to get the discussion going about. We've seen what's happening in just looking at the TV in the green room. There's the wildfires raging in Greece at the moment. The 100 million people in the US that are under threat of extreme heat. I mean, in our own country, in the UK, we've got, where I live in East Anglia, harvest failures going on because of extreme heat. I mean, we've got to join the dots here. And look, are we going to let the fossil fuel era end us, or are we going to end the fossil fuel era and move on?
Tell me what you want exactly and when you want it by.
Well, we want a just transition away from fossil fuels to end all new oil and gas. We're not saying end oil and gas overnight. We know we need a transition period. We can't just shut everything off. Which is something we need to clarify, I think. But move on to renewables, move on to a more sustainable way of living, insulate houses, more public transport. We really need to cut our emissions down.
And isn't that happening? I mean, isn't that just in the process of happening? Hasn't your message got out loudly and clearly? Hasn't this government, haven't local councils, haven't, you know, parents, pressure groups and everybody else essentially accepted your message? I don't think there are many people really these days arguing that vociferously against it. Isn't it a question of how quickly they can or can't implement it rather than whether they do or don't disagree with you?
And we're running out of runway, aren't we, at the moment? I mean, if you look at what's happening, the acceleration that's going on in the extreme weather events we're seeing, in the number of people that are passing away, very sadly, because of the floods, the wildfires, it's just not quick enough. And the government, what I regard as a criminal government with their policies, wants to open over, I think it's over 100 new oil and gas fields. It's just not what we should be doing at the moment. We need to end all new oil and gas and just concentrate on the reserves we've got and that just transition.
But what about the effect of the war in Ukraine upon us and upon, you know, fuel bills and, you know, people going cold and old people being cold in the winter and people just not being able to afford to pay? Isn't the government doing what it's doing in order to forestall the effects of that on our actual citizens, all of whom do need to keep warm, and we do need to cook our food, and we don't want, you know, elderly people being worried to turn on a kettle and make a cup of tea because they're scared to turn it on because they can't afford the fuel bills? We don't want that, do we?
No, we don't. We absolutely don't want that. And what an opportunity we have right now to transition to renewables, which are cheaper and quicker to build. The government are currently subsidising the fossil fuel industry for £236 million a week. Why not put that into renewables instead? And
what do you think is the reason the government doesn't do that immediately?
I think they're in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry. You've got fossil fuel industries making billions at the moment of pounds. And the power they have in the media with their advertising, climate campaigners just don't have the same sort of capacity. We don't have deep pockets. We're ordinary people out on the streets trying to make a case. My friend Frances, arrested this morning, 20 years old. She doesn't think she's going to have a livable future.
Because what does she think is going to happen, and when does she think it's going to happen?
Well, she's looking at what's happening right now with wildfires, with crop failures, with floods that we get in our own country, and thinking, God, we're going to get the breakdown of society if we're not careful. Law and order is going to go. The NHS is going to go. Pension schemes are going to go. You know, all these things that we need and value, we're not going to be able to grow our own food. And she's really worried.
Look, there are going to be lots of people watching and listening to you who pretty much agree with you. They look at the weather in Europe, even if they boil it down to the weather in Europe. When I say boil, I use that word advisedly.
Yeah.
They look at the weather in Europe. They've saved all year for a holiday.
Yeah.
Maybe they manage 1 week in Lanzarote or you know, the Costa del Sol. They're going to be boiled alive. Unbelievably unpleasant. They can't cancel their holidays because the insurance companies won't tolerate it yet anyway. And they're thinking, oh my God, is this global warming? Is this climate change? Is this what people have been talking about? I think it might be. It probably is. So lots of people kind of up against it in ways that they hadn't anticipated, being up against it so quickly. However, you know, when you and your fellow protesters bung up the roads and, you know, throw you know, yellow dye in the ashes and do all these things that kind of interrupt all the stuff that people have been looking forward to all year. I don't know quite what you think you're going to achieve, because most of the people stuck in the traffic that I was stuck in, what can we do? What can I do? What can any of us do? Well,
I think we can interrogate our politicians far better. I think the media have a responsibility to go after these people and say, why aren't you acting quickly enough? Why aren't you changing your policies so we don't have new oil and gas? I think the media have a responsibility, and now these changes are really coming home to roost with us in Europe, in the UK and abroad. Time to act is now. Well, it's time to act 30 years ago. And we've been trying loads of methods for those last 30 plus years. We've written to MPs, we've done petitions, we've done peaceful protests on the pavement. Civil resistance is the only thing that seems to be breaking through.
But is it breaking through? How, are you making progress? And if you are, what kind of progress is it?
I think we are breaking through, because all political parties, apart from the Tories, have all agreed that we can't have any oil and gas, in line with what many experts and climate scientists are saying around the world. It's only the Tory party that's saying, no, we want to carry on with new oil and gas because of energy security. And I just think that's a lie, personally, because if renewable energy, we can have energy security with that. The oil and gas in the North Sea is owned by companies that will probably export that overseas to the highest bidder. It's not going to benefit us.
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Pleasure.
Good to see you. So what do you think? Do you think Just Stop Oil protesters have gone too far? Or with fatal heat waves across the globe, is it really time now to pay even more attention to their cause? Do give me a call on 0344 499 1000. Coming up after the break, the cost of living crisis intensifies as the number of people who can no longer afford their homes doubles. I'm Vanessa Feltz and you're with Talk on TV, radio